Afternoon. After one. Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah. We go lunch at 2 after 3. After 3. Yeah.
Did you start recording?
It's on there.
She was parking with us.
Good evening. Board of Alders Notice, New Haven. The City Services and Environmental Policy Committee of the Board of Alders will meet in person on Thursday, May 1st, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in the Board of Alders chamber located at 165 Church Street, 2nd floor, New Haven, Connecticut, to hear and act on the following items. Item number 1, LM 2025-0161, order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the designation of residential parking zone on Burr Street. Item 2, LM 2025-0241, order of the New Haven Board of Alders designating the corner of Worcester Street and Brown Street as Frank and Filomena Pepe Corner in honor of their creation of New Haven-style pizza and contributions to the Worcester Square community and residents of New Haven. Item 3, LM-2025-0152, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor to accept funding from the Connecticut Department of Transportation as part of the local transportation capital improvement program for the execution of the Orange Street Safety Improvements Project. Item number 4, LM-2025-0153, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor to accept funding from the Connecticut Department of Transportation as part of the Transportation Alternatives Program grant for the execution of the Church Street South Promenade project. Item 5, LM 2025-0154, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor to accept funding from the Connecticut Department of Transportation as part of the Transportation Alternatives Program grant and acquire property interest required for the execution of the Mill River Trail North project. Item 6, LM 2025-0155, resolution of the New Haven Board of Alders authorizing the mayor to sign a maintenance agreement with the Connecticut Department of Transportation for the Townsend Avenue raised crosswalk. Per Honorable Anna M. Festa, Chair, attest Honorable Michael Smart, City Town Clerk. These items are on file and available in the Office of Legislative Services, City Hall, 165 Church Street, 2nd floor, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510. For accessibility-related accommodations, please call 203-946-7651V or 203-946-8582 TTY TDD. Public comment testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting. This meeting may be viewed on the New Haven Board of Alders YouTube page. Welcome, everyone. I'm Anna Festa, the Chair of City Services and Environmental Policy. At this time, I will allow my colleagues to introduce themselves, beginning to my right.
Gary Hogan, Ward 28.
Carly Tubby Smith, Ward 9.
Kevin Singh, Ward 5.
Thank you, colleagues, for being here this evening. Just some items before we begin. There is a table to my right, your left, that should have sign-up sheets for anyone that wishes to testify on any of the items that we will be discussing this evening. Also, there is a petition if you are a New Haven resident and would like to support the corner naming for Pepe's Meats. Please do so. There's a QR code and we welcome any New Haven resident signatures to sign the petition if you are in favor of that corner naming, which is one of the items that we will be discussing this evening. With that being said, we can start with item number 1, which is regarding the approval of residential parking for Burr Street. If we have the person who will be speaking on behalf of residential parking on Burr Street to come forward. Is there? I know there's a lot going on tonight across the street, so with that, we can.
I just keep told to come for Hyde Street, residential parking on Hyde Street, but I don't see them on the agenda.
Is that by the airport?
Yes,
Would you like to support the one for Burr Street?
sure, but would it also extend to my own residence?
No, I think that's gonna be possibly next month. Next month.
Oh, I received an email saying it was today.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know it's on our
Okay.
agenda for next month,
Do you know the date?
the first Thursday of June. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You got familiar with our Board of Alders chamber. And I'll just, one more time, is there anyone here representing Burr Street? Come forward, welcome. Yep, come on up. And while you're coming up, I'm just going to, anyone who will be testifying this evening, please, once you sit down, state your name and address for the record, and go into your testimony. And again, this is for designation of residential parking zone on Burr Street. Hi. So one thing with the microphones, you don't need to have it close to you for it to work. And if you hear it go out, it comes back, so you could just continue speaking. So go ahead, state your name and address for the record, and then go right into your testimony.
Hi, my name is Maria Alvarez, and I live at 268 Burr Street in New Haven, right across the street from a wonderful airport, which I fully support, by the way. I just wish, the situation would be a little bit easier. The parking, it's gotten out of control, really out of control. I work from home, and to the point that people are knocking on my door, asking me, like throughout the day, and this is just newly happening, which is really awkward because I would never knock on a stranger's door. So that's becoming a little uneasy with the parking. So that's why, one of the reasons why I feel these permit-only parkings would be beneficial. And then, of course, just, like events. There's the signs were put up in our entire neighborhood. And there's only 4 houses on the strip that we live on. And it's limited spaces anyway. There's only like 6 spaces. And people they park there, they take up all the spaces. When we have, like just this past holiday for Easter, I was celebrating it at my home. I had no parking for my guests. I had people that come from New York, and this is my home, we own our homes. And this is just becoming increasingly worse. And then not to mention, they park there, sometimes they park right at the edge of my driveway, right at the edge of the street. There's school buses that stop here, my child being one of them that gets on a school bus every day to go back and forth to school, and it's just not safe anymore. I'm also even nervous to even let her go outside and hang out because we don't know who these people are, just parked, hanging out in front of our homes. And not to mention the debris and garbage that they're cleaning out their cars and just leaving it in our neighborhood that we're constantly out there cleaning. I work really hard for my home. I've only been there 8 years. I never minded purchasing it across from the airport. Again, it doesn't bother me at all, not even the constant air traffic and the noises. It doesn't even bother me. I love my home. But it's becoming really, really, really frustrating. And they're also disrespectful. My son works at the airport. When he gets home from work and if somebody's there and there's no other spots, he'll be like, can you move a little so I can park? And they'll say no, or they'll be confrontational. And, so it's becoming an issue. Did you want to add anything?
Sure. My name is DeShayla Miller. I live at 250 Burr Street, so I'm right on the corner of Fort Hill and Burr Street. I second everything that she stated. It has become, I've been there also for 8 years. I purchased my home 8 years ago. And before it wasn't like this. Again, I don't really mind the airport per se, but the parking is problematic. We do have random people ringing our doorbells, asking us to watch their car, or if they can park here. It's odd. Especially, for me, I'm a single woman, I live alone, I have a child, but it's not safe. Like, just these, I open the door, but still, you never know. Again, they park directly at the end of our driveway, and if I'm correct, we can tow because they have to be 6 feet, I believe, from the tip to tip. And that is not happening at all. We're trying to be courteous and not tow people's cars because the economy that we're in now and everything that's going on, people just don't have money to shell out to just get their cars out of an impound. But it is starting to become very problematic. Not sure why Fort Hill and Hall Street has parking. I was informed, and Sal is not here, but it's been a long thing that's been going on. I guess allegedly he knocked on everyone's door asking if we wanted a permit sign. That has never happened. No one has even inquired about our input or how we felt except for the New Haven Register. And I'm sure you guys don't want us to do that. So we're trying to figure out something. We keep voicing our opinions. We have reached out to Sal. I have emailed City Hall personally. I've emailed Sal. Everyone's story the stories are not cohesive. They're saying you rejected it. Sal's saying that never happened. It's a lot. And I feel like we've been dealing with this for a while, and unfortunately, I mean, we're thankful that we have the opportunity now, but it shouldn't have taken for us to sign a petition and whatever else to get here. Like, if you guys, and again, not to be facetious, but if you guys are here for the neighborhoods, etc., there's no reason why we've been getting this much backlash for even this type of forum. So thank you for having us, but it's a sour taste in my mouth. I don't know any of you, but it is what it is.
Well, we're here to have that conversation and hopefully fix your concerns. Alder DeCola did write a letter of supporting the residential parking, because that's one.
My letter. That's the letter that I sent him. I mean, I'm not sure if that's the normal process, but when I got the email, I was like, those are my words.
So part of the ordinance too is for support from an alder, preferably the alder of the ward.
Yeah.
And he fully supports, the residential parking. The other, thing is why we need signatures is because there's always somebody that doesn't want residential parking. It's just all part of the ordinance that the city has in place on process pretty much. But it also went to city plan because that's also part of the steps that it takes. And city plan, I believe, got a majority of the vote. I believe only one person voted against it, but it passed out of city plan. And then the next step is it comes to us. And what will happen is, we'll ask questions if my colleagues have, but the process is once it comes to this committee, we will vote it on it tonight, whether it's approval or not. And then if we approve it and vote it out of committee, it goes to the full board of alders for a final vote. And that probably will happen at the end of the month, just so you all know. And then once it gets approved, someone will reach out and let you all know.
What that would look like, whomever would reach out and just kind of explain what that would look like with the park, because I believe the residents on Fort Hill and Hall Street, I think they were given passes or something. I don't really know the logistics,
Yes, so you will need, if you park in the street, whether it's yourselves or your guests, you will need to have them put a tag that you will have and hand them. I forget how many you get, but you will be issued those passes. You may need to pick them up. I can't remember.
Yes,
that's fine.
You may need to come down and pick them up, but
That is fine.
yeah. And there will probably be signs up saying that it's residential parking.
Yeah.
So expect all that. things don't happen like, in the blink of an eye, but it will happen if approved by the full board. Okay? With that, I think part of even the airport, there should have been a package to automatically probably do residential parking in that area, because I hear your frustrations. But again, we're here to work with you and make things right.
The airport has actually, is the one that got me connected, because the first time I reached out to DeCola, he didn't, Mr. DeCola, he just told me that, oh, they already went around and signed, and asked. And I'm like, well, we were never asked, and so he didn't tell me the process, and all of a sudden I get a call from Mr. Cavalier from the airport, who got me connected to you all.
Well, good, I'm happy to hear that too. So we will, we'll make this
That's
right.
another problem, yeah.
We will make it right, so you can rest assured that we'll make it right.
And then a question,
Yes.
because I was only directed to get those 4 signatures on that street, but I also noticed that the rest of Burst Street, both ways, don't have them, and they're being bombarded as well. Like I've taken pictures of, and you see these homes have, this is not street parking.
Yeah.
And I know that I probably should have, but I'm not comfortable just going and cold knocking on people's door,
Let me see if it's from a certain street to,
Madam Chair, it's from Fort Hale to Hall, which
Okay.
is a 1 block.
Yeah.
Opposite the parking
There
lot.
are-
so it's
And
just
I
your
mean,
block.
I'm here speaking on behalf of our block, but should I give them the process as well? Because it's probably maybe like 3 more houses both ways that don't have the signs in front of their house either.
Yeah, I only say yes. I mean, I would love to make an amendment to include that block, but without the residents' approval, we
Yeah,
we
of course.
can't.
Yeah.
But yes, feel free to share whatever you learned from the process and, and it would come to this committee.
No, we'll approve.
Yeah, we'll take care of what we have in front of us. Sorry, we're trying to figure
I'll
out if
just
there's
tell
a
them
way.
the process, yeah.
But the best bet is for us to vote on this item tonight and then continue the conversation.
The only reason I ask is because I know as soon as they see the process starting, they're gonna start asking us questions.
And that's okay, because now you become the expert. So it's okay. We get these requests, so we will, and I believe there's other streets that came to us months ago in the area requesting residential parking. But we have, a procedure in order, just so residents are aware of what's happening, and their signature is important, because you always have folks that are not interested in, and don't want to be bothered with, residential parking and passes and et cetera. Okay. Questions from colleagues?
May I add
Alder
something?
Sings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair has touched on it, but I just want to get some more information. When the sign goes up for the zone parking, residential zone parking, you have to come down to City Hall there, next to the tax office. You have to bring your registration, proof of address, and you have to apply for the parking permit. Then you'd get 1 for the cars or residents, and probably 1 or 2 as guests, and you have to put that on the windshield or the raving mirror. If you don't put that, you will get a ticket also.
Yeah, which is fine, because I have 3 cars in my house with a very small driveway, so we're gonna be taking our spaces.
So the pass would not automatically come to you. You have to come down
Yes.
to the office with registration and address of the property. Thank you,
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for that clarification, Alder Singh. Alder Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for coming. Gosh, that sounds really hard. Just thanks for coming to us. Just one question. I mean, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you've gotten signatures, unanimous signatures from all the property owners that live on that block. City plan has recommended to approve it. Have you heard any pushback from neighbors? It seems, from my perspective, first sort of hearing about it, that it's pretty unanimous, but have you heard any concerns come up?
No. No.
No, I mean, they all need we all need our spaces.
Yeah.
Not to point it
Yeah.
out, but I think she's the only one without without an extra car.
Yeah.
In the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, our house, like the other address between her home and my home, they have like 4 cars. That it's, it becomes difficult to find spaces. My son once had to park up the street and I know flat tires happen, but someone flattened his tire and it looked obvious. There was no damage to the tire. It looked like somebody, because the thing for the, I don't know what it's called, the valve that you fill, that's what was damaged. And that doesn't just get damaged, because you bumped it. You have to unscrew it and take that thing out. And that's what was ruined on his tire. And the people that figured it out, the people that fixed the tire, they're like, there's nothing wrong with your tire. Somebody tampered with the valve.
Thank you both. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Hogan?
I have more of a statement than I do a question. Be prepared once, and if this is approved, for your neighbors to come out, because once the signs go up, I am guilty of picking up family members at that point of Fort Haven and Burr, because the airport is so congested, and I understand your plight. So try to be helpful and diligent with your neighbors to also remediate this problem on Burr Street.
And I think the waiting is not the issue, it's just when the car is here for a week,
Oh,
over a week.
long-term.
And it's definitely long-term parking, or when there's nips all over the lawn because people are cleaning out their car, or there's this and that. The waiting is not the issue, because it's going to happen, people are gonna pick up, it's the long-term. And we go on, is it C-Clicks or something? Yes, and people complain, but by the time the complaint is read, or someone goes out, the car is gone. So there's one that's up now, I think the woman or whomever posted it almost a week ago, and I think yesterday, someone responded, like, oh, it's not there anymore, and it's like, well, go figure. So it's just, and I do think a lot of the neighbors will be in support, just from conversations, even the ones further down, because if you drive by, they have makeshift signs saying this is not airport parking. And again, this has been ongoing for over a year. Like, I have messages and emails for back to a year with Sal, with the city, and everyone was just bouncing. It was just like a game of like ping pong, and I was the ball. So it wasn't fun. So it's very frustrating. But we understand, we purchased our home near the airport. The airport doesn't bother me, aside from the other things, political stuff, but the airport itself, it doesn't bother me. It's the parking, it's the random people knocking on your door, it's the garbage. Our neighborhood is very, very, very beautiful. One of the reasons why I purchased my home there, we would like to keep it that way.
So we don't mind people pulling up and parking and waiting, of course, that happens everywhere.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not cleaning out your car and throwing it outside in my neighborhood, in front of my home. Like, I have to chase some kid I was like, you're leaving your garbage, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm in a rush. And I'm like, if you don't come and get it, I'm towing your car. And of course, I don't have the power towing his car, but then he comes back and he starts picking everything up.
Well, it worked.
Literally, that's when, because I was watching, I have a video of it. I just was like, I don't know if I bring that kind of stuff here.
Or if our garbage doesn't get picked up because the car is blocking the garbage, that's another issue. So it's
So many things.
So just out of clarification, your main concern is that people are parking long-term there and occupying the space basically for free. They don't want to park. It's not for folks waiting for their passenger to arrive. Okay,
Yeah.
you're okay with that, because that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're picking them up and they're leaving. They're not staying. It's really the
The
long-term. It's
Okay.
long-term. And again, blocking our driveway after, I'm like, I have to go. Yesterday I was coming.
That's a joke.
in
Blocking. They do
Fort
block our
Hill.
driveway.
Yeah, and I couldn't get in my driveway coming down Fort Hill. I had to go up the street, make a U-turn, or come back to come into my driveway. I should not have to do that. Like, I'm sorry. It's some things I'm just like, after I'm getting off from work or wherever I'm going, one of the reasons I purchased a home with a driveway is because I don't want to have any issues with parking. So I don't want anyone blocking it. And then again, the towing, I don't want to have to tow someone it's hard because you don't know anyone's financial situation, and it's not cheap. So, and it's a headache.
I appreciate you coming. Are there any further questions from colleagues? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We will be voting on this item at the end of the evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, or you could go. Someone will reach out and let you know what the end result is.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Please come forward. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item, please come forward. And for a third time, if there is anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we will move on item number 2, which is the corner name for Frank and Filomena Pepe. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm going to ask that you act as chair while I go to the other side and present the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm Festa, 117 Canner Street, New Haven. I'm actually here presenting on behalf of Alder Ellen Cupo, who was unable to be here tonight due to a work commitment. The letter actually also comes from the Honorable Rosa DeLauro. So dear President Walker Myers, we respectfully submit to the Board of Alders the attached order proposing that the corner of Worcester Street and Brown Street be designated as Frank and Filomena Pepe Corner to honor the 100th anniversary of Frank Pepe's Pizzeria on Worcester Street and their significant contributions to creating New Haven-style pizza, or Abby's. To honor Frank and Filomena Pepe and their family, we ask that the Board of Alders approve this order, which calls for the designation of the corner as mentioned above in recognition of the originators of New Haven-style pizza in perpetuity, officially commemorating their legacy in New Haven. Thank you for considering this communication. Respectfully submitted, Honorable Ellen Cupo, Alder Ward 8, Honorable Rosa DeLauro, Member of Congress, Connecticut 03. With that, I will ask if there are any.
Are there any questions? Okay.
I would just add, we know that Pepe's Abby's has made a significant contribution to the city of New Haven. It is 100 years of us being blessed with really good pizza. And I remember going there as a kid and not having any lines. And now, you know, there's a line from people coming from literally not just New Haven, not just Connecticut, but from all over to try this New Haven style pizza. So with that in mind, you know, Frank Pepe came over with a dream, like many immigrants, and he came with this dream of a good life here in the United States of America. And with that, he made that dream a reality. He also employed people, we have to remember that. And he started with a cart selling up and down the streets. Yeah, and it was this idea he had, and he made it come to fruition to where it sits today. So I just wanted to add those words of pride and appreciation as the daughter of Italian immigrants who also came with a suitcase full of treats. Anyway, thank you. I will now resume my seat. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I know we have a representative from Pepe's that is here. If you would come forward. And again, just as a reminder, have a seat, state your name and address for the record of it.
My name is Jeff Marini. I am a resident of Ansonia, Connecticut, manage our restaurant on Worcester Street. Been there for 2 years, so.
Is there anything you would like to add?
Well, yeah, I have a little statement from our office. It says, For the past century, Frank Pepe Pizzeria Napolitana has been more than just a pizzeria. It has been a beloved gathering place, bringing together guests, teammates, vendors, and the communities we proudly serve. As we commemorate 100 incredible years, we reflect on the countless memories that have shaped Frank Pepe's into a true institution. To honor our founders, Frank and Philomena Pepe, and their enduring legacy, we are seeking permission from the great city of New Haven to add a street sign on the corner of Brown and Worcester Street that will be called Frank and Philomena Pepe Corner, with an unveiling on June 20th, 2025.
Thank you. Thank you for that statement. Are there any questions from colleagues? No. We appreciate you coming tonight to represent.
Thank you. Yes.
The famous pizzeria.
Yes, and we will have to get those signatures, and we will. It's like you mentioned earlier, a lot of our guests are from out of the state. In fact, today we had first people in line, Arizona, Florida. So it's like, we'd love for you to sign it, but you can't. So yeah, out of the country, and it's just, it would really mean a lot to us to have that, the corner named for our founder. That would be, an amazing thing. So we'll make it happen. We'll get those signatures, and
it's
do
exciting.
We'll do it. Yeah.
And just so you're aware what the process is, this will now go to city plan at the end of the month, I believe May 19th, if I'm not mistaken, where they actually are the ones that will review the petition and count the signatures and validate them. I believe we have about 200, but it's always, and we need 250 with 166 that need to be from the area. So we need at least 50 more, but it should be plus.
Got it.
You should always go over the number in case some are duplicates or are not validated through the process. And I know that we also received payment for the sign, so we're all set there. So the next step is for it to go to city plan and wait for their recommendations.
Excellent.
All right, thank you for being here.
All right, thank you. And we look forward to you being down there for 100 years.
Look forward to it.
Awesome,
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for
your
being
time.
here.
Oh, you're welcome.
At this time, I'm going to open it up to the public, and we have a name here from Lawrence Street for Pepe's. Is it Till?
Oh, I want, not for the Pepe, I want.
Oh, okay.
For the Orange Street one.
Okay. So I'll hold on to this then for when we hear that item, and I'll just mark it here. Sorry, I should have said that at the top. It'll tell you which item, but you're good. Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this item? Please come forward. And for a third time, if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak in support of or not, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our next item. Actually, the next 4 items are with our city engineer, Giovanni Zinn. Hello.
When you start writing Board of Alder submissions, you just can't stop.
You just can't stop. You just like coming here.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for having me here. Or do you have to read off first, or should I do my name? All right, I'm Giovanni Zinn. I'm the city engineer. I reside at 95 Soundview Terrace in beautiful New Haven.
Great. So we will start with item number 3. Since I have you here, sitting there, if you don't mind presenting all the items, but in between we will question, them, and then we'll just proceed.
Sure.
With 4 and then 5 and then 6, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay. Committee, okay with that? What we have on here?
Yes.
All right.
Sure. Okay, so the first item I believe is the submission to apply for and accept funding from the Connecticut Department of Transportation for Orange Street. This is a submission to the Local Transportation Capital Improvement Program, DOT, a grant program that we are quite familiar with at this point. I've been in front of your committee a number of times to talk about. And that is, it's a grant program that covers construction costs for municipal projects for roadway improvements on city-owned roadways primarily, although I think you can use it for state roadways. We try not to use our money for their problems too much. That are rated collector or higher. The project is funded through what's called a project authorization letter, which is an instrument created under the master municipal agreement that is signed every 10 years with the DOT, which you actually, I think, last year, I think, approved another 10-year term. However, as part of that, we do come before you for every specific project, and that is called for in the approval of the master agreement. So, long story short, Orange Street has been a significant process to get to where we are today. There's been a lot of work by our Transportation Traffic Department, Economic Development Department, and others. A lot of public participation, a couple different public meetings, a lot of input, emails, other reaching out that we've had on Orange Street, and there's been a lot of passion, I think is a good way to put it, on all different aspects of the project. And I know that city staff, both my own and Transportation Traffic and Parking, have looked at many different iterations of what a project could look like, and there's still a lot of work to do for designing a project. But at this point, we think we have a sort of general concept that we can apply to the state of Connecticut for funding, and really focus on a lot of the things that we heard around pedestrian safety, slowing traffic down, creating a really neighborhood-focused corridor, discouraging some of the cut-through traffic that we see through there, slowing everyone down so that it can be a street that, one of the things we're proposing, for example, is a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is the lowest speed limit we can do in the state of Connecticut. And creating, also helping a lot of with some of the frequent crash history that we see with cars crossing Orange Street, improving sight lines, shortening crossing distances for pedestrians, et cetera. So there's a lot of, I think, safety benefits. We heard a lot of testimony as well about the uses of the right-of-way, especially around parking. I think that was a particularly passionate discussion around parking there. And really look to you as the Alder, the two of you are here, Alders of the area, and others, and to understand sort of what's the best way to go forward there. So I think we've come up with a plan that provides a new vision for Orange Street, one that I think is more people-centric as opposed to car-centric, and that I think will change the patterns of how people use Orange Street, less as a cut-through, more as a center of the neighborhood, which it really is. You have Whitney Avenue and State Street, which are kind of big roads on either side of the neighborhood, and this is the heart of the neighborhood in that area. Sort of long story short, this is just for the application acceptance of the funding. The exact amount of funding, I think, is around 1.6 million. That'll vary a bit as design progresses and finishes. City is responsible for design costs, and then the state picks up the construction. So with that, if there are any questions from the committee on that item, I'd be happy to discuss it.
Great, thank you for presenting the item and for securing these funds as well, which is.
Well, we still have to, we think it's likely, but we still have to go through an application.
Okay, so there's still a wait as far as.
Oh, sure.
This isn't happening overnight.
No.
Okay, as we would all like to see things done in the city, but we know. You mentioned the 20-mile-per-hour speed. Does that need like state permission? I mean, are we able as a city to post when the time comes, obviously?
Depending on exactly what our ordinances say at the time of constructing. I mean, right now, I think we would have to go to the state Office of State Traffic Administration to get that change. There is state legislation that allows the designation of certain areas in the city potentially as pedestrian safety zones that would then allow the Board of Alders to give the traffic authority the ability to lower speed limits to 20 miles an hour within those zones if everyone involved were to want that. But yeah, either way, I think there's a very good case for what we're trying to do here for that 20-mile-an-hour speed.
And that'll be part of the, quote unquote, design or the
Yes.
process?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Questions from colleagues? Alder Hogan.
Excuse me for being naive, but what is the tan aggregate that gets put on the road?
So there's a few different things. It could be something called a chip seal, which uses an asphaltic binder to put stones that are of that color down onto the top, and that's actually a fairly old technique to resurface asphalt. There's also some newer techniques that use an epoxy polymer. It's often used actually where roadways need a higher friction on their surface. They use a very jagged aggregate. If you use a smoother one, then it's more aesthetic, but there's an opportunity to use sort of an epoxy as well. So there's a couple different techniques to do that.
Is there a raised median in the middle?
There are raised medians at some of the intersections. Some of them are mountable, some of them are fully curved, and that depends on, sort of the turning radii and things like that. And these are all things that are subject to, tweaking during design. But generally speaking, down the middle of the roadway, it's striped to allow entrance and egress from the driveways.
And your resolution is just to accept the funding and apply to
Correct.
the plan. And is the plan finalized?
No, we would then go into detailed design. It's at a conceptual level.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Zinn. I think from testimony received, the primary bucket of questions was really around this question of, does the design make the street less safe for cyclists? So a couple of things that some people mentioned were that, that the speed of being 20 miles per hour doesn't sort of match the appropriate speed for a shared street, which it said is the average traffic speed should be 12 to 15 miles per hour. And I think the second bucket of concerns was around just the current traffic volume and whether or not if it's too high to really make the street safe. But yes, the core question is, does this, could you speak to that concern?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think given all of the constraints and what we've heard, right? So we're trying to find a design that really transforms the look and feel of the roadway, which is why we have the change in color, the change in widths. It's a much more constrained travel way. We have some raised elements in the design, and we'll continue to evaluate all of those elements as we go forward. 20 miles an hour is the speed limit. I think, I get a fair amount of questions and comments about some of our raised elements, for example, and the fact that 20 miles an hour is at times a generous speed going over some of those. And on the flip side, modern vehicles can speed in pretty much every environment, right? You've heard me talk about that, in front of you previously, where automakers provide vehicles that have these crazy performance envelopes, and then we're asking everyone to stay in, a tiny portion of what their vehicles are technically capable of, and even though it's a terrible idea from a safety perspective. But yes, I think both we understand and have heard a lot about both. I think the 20 mile an hour is really kind of a synthetic thing created by legislation, that being the lowest level we can go. I think the design, especially as it matures with the sort of very constrained feel to it, the emphasis on, really kind of a tight roadway will slow people down. Further, I think also some of the raised elements and other things about it will start to discourage some of the cut through traffic. And we have other work to do, right? I know Traffic and Parking is working on a corridor study for Trumbull Street. What we've seen in the data is a lot of Orange Street through traffic has to do with 91 and the Trumbull Street exit and entrance, a lot of it. And so how do we do that, look at that area as well in Trumbull Street and make short-term improvements to that, which TDP is working on. And then longer term, you approve the Reconnecting Communities grant, for example, which looks at the entirety of Exit 3. And I think that's actually really the sort of the golden opportunity in Reconnecting Communities is how to decouple Exit 3 from the heart of that neighborhood and put that traffic on streets that's much more appropriate than Orange Street. So really, I get it, and certainly I think it's been a hallmark of engineers for the last 70 years to always argue, oh, we have too much volume for that. We have, this, that, or the other thing to prevent some of the changes that we want. And we are trying something here. We want to see how it works. It's not the final, thing. If there are additional things we need to do, I think the mayor has been very clear in his discussion about this, for example, that, we want to, we have a vision for Orange Street, which is this sort of very neighborhood centric, open, inviting, pedestrian in particular focus, because that's the dominant user on the street, in perspective. And I think that, we'll continue to work towards that vision. And there are short, medium, and long-term things that really drive that. But preserving, I don't think one of the things we're trying to preserve in this design is the notion that Orange Street is an acceptable cut for traffic heading north to Hamden or wherever from 91.
Thank you. A follow-up on that, I was biking down Orange Street to get to this meeting and a bus was behind me. And I am not as fast as the bus. And I just found myself getting a little nervous because I was just trying to bike as fast as I can. I felt bad for the bus. And maybe you can speak to this with the median, which I've been curious about, is something that I wouldn't want to happen is that the relationship between bike riders or drivers to sort of erode because cyclists are going slowly and a car's behind. Could you either both speak to that and also how the median plays a role in a car being able to go around a bike if a bike is going slowly? Could you just sort of speak to that moment that might happen and how we just...
I think first and foremost, it's putting enough cues in the roadway, whether it's the narrowing, some of the raised elements and other things, to say, look, this is a roadway where you're expected to move slower than, say, a 25-mile-an-hour street. I think driver behavior is always a challenge. I think a lot of people are curious on the road, right? The majority of people are curious and they don't want to hurt a cyclist, but there is a significant portion of our driving population that, does display discourtesy towards their neighbors and people around them by doing things that are dangerous and speed and, worry about themselves first and foremost. So I think that's one thing. I think that the median, while technically it's not a passing lane, right? It's a median. I think one of the things that also for emergency operations that we try to do in our designs is, there's a temptation to kind of design down to the last foot in a roadway, right? Take every last foot and leave no slack in the roadway for unexpected conditions. So I think having the median there does provide space for, if there's, a cyclist were to go really slowly or stop or, kind of drop out of the regular flow of Orange Street, there's an opportunity for someone to potentially go around that kind of emergent condition there. Police and fire, right? That's another one where they'd be able to go around, access in and out of driveways. And it just, I would hesitate to say that, we would openly encourage people to cross a yellow line because that's not how we design a road. But we do have enough extra space, I think, built into the roadway where it doesn't feel like it's just this wide roadway, but there is some space there for some of those conditions that are unexpected. Someone delivery truck double parks, what do you do, right? There's again things that aren't great, but that do happen, and we also need to be realistic about having our roads operate.
Okay, so it's not meant for someone to go around, but that's how it could be used.
We want to, yeah, it's it's a space that can provide that unlike if we were to put a hard, 9-foot, curb to curb lane, where you really don't have any sort of space if something happens out of the ordinary. Here you do have space to deal with conditions as they come up.
One more question just for now, if I may, Madam Chair, is about the pedestrian improvements at various intersections. So, Alder Saban, Alder Feston, and I share a Lawrence and Orange, and we've had a few recently, and I know that Alder Feston also represents Canner and Orange intersections that could really do with some pedestrian improvement. Could you just describe how, if this plan were implemented, how it would improve intersections?
I think pedestrian improvements are always number one on our list because that is the most vulnerable user in any roadway. And often you have people who can't walk very well, or have other ailments that we're pushing a stroller or whatever that make them particularly vulnerable. I think looking at bump outs and limiting some of the crossing distances, I think one of the other really big things about it, especially at some of these secondary but still fairly high volume streets, are the sight lines for vehicles trying to come out. I had a buddy of mine who lived for a few years on Lawrence Street back in my early 20s. I'd go visit him, and then just crossing Lawrence Street on Lawrence is always an interesting adventure, right? And you're kind of creeping forward and trying to kind of feel your way into the intersection because of all the parked cars, right? So here, bump outs allow to, daylight the intersection a little better and create more space for sight lines and for people to be able to see what they're doing as they try to cross the roadway. So I think those are kind of low key, but very important safety bonuses. I always say that sidewalks are improving sidewalks, like the number one thing we can do for pedestrians in the city. It is very popular for requests, but it's not flashy, right? It's not flashy to just put in the sidewalk. So, but it is the most basic thing we can do, and reducing those crossing distances, improving sight lines, basic stuff, but that really means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Smith. I'll just add, so that, just to clarify, this goes from Cold Spring Street, correct, down to Humphrey?
Correct.
Or is it Edwards?
There's, I think we can go up to Humphrey, in final design, we'll make a call on that, but yeah.
Okay. A big concern too is the Cold Spring Street, Orange Street intersection. There's the largest comprehensive high school in the city of New Haven. That's right there at the corner with a lot of kids that walk to school. There's also, plenty of track meets and sports activities that occur in the park area. So down by the Cold Spring area, it looks like there's some, is that bump outs?
Yeah, I think those are bump outs.
Okay. Which would help with line of sight as well. We also have to remember there's a Worthington Hooker School. That's also, it's a neighborhood school, so we have a lot of kids that cross Orange Street to walk to school, whether it's the Whitney Avenue facility, which is the 3rd through 8th grade, as well as K through 2 on Canner and Livingston. So any safety measures for kids to cross the street is always appreciated. I just wanted the clarification with the Cold Spring. So.
Yeah, and we are also looking on Mitchell Drive and doing some traffic coming here shortly. So I think in general, the overcross area is always a concern and something that we want to address. And we do have some improvements there. Obviously, the final design, we'll look at it some more. But yeah, I think your point about sort of the most basic thing, which is get someone across the street safely, is a big emphasis of what we're trying to do.
Yes. I don't know if you've been down Orange Street, but I walk it quite a bit, and there is a lot of pedestrians that use those
Always,
sidewalks.
always see someone walking down Orange Street any time of day.
Yes, I was
Or
walking.
night probably.
At night too,
I
I
don't
was
get out
walking.
at night very much, but yes, I would imagine
Yeah,
so.
I was walking the other night around 6:30 and all you saw was a sea of people. I thought I was in Manhattan. I mean, walking on this, I looked at my husband, I said, do you see all these people? Obviously, it was a beautiful evening. People like to go out for a stroll. But being someone who's been, I live off of Orange, but I did also spend time as a kid living on Orange Street, and it's come a long way from when I was a kid. But it's nice to see, you know, and it's nice for also our businesses that are on Orange Street to have all this pedestrian traffic as well as, well, as you know, there's also car traffic and, you know, cyclists that come by. So it's actually really, it's the Fifth Avenue, I think, of New Haven is how I'll look at it, without the glamorous stores. Although we have our beautiful markets there. Okay, so there are, just to reconfirm, there will be bump outs, speed humps.
Yeah, I think there's raised elements, there's bump outs, there's medians, both mountable and unmountable. I think that the concept plan gives you a good sense of the sort of the basket of parts there that will work.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. Any further questions, Alder Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Sen. A couple other questions, just going back to the concern about speed, particularly for cyclists. Are there any other sort of speed management tools that are in consideration if that ends up being an issue? If it ends up being an issue that, you know, cars get frustrated by cyclists right in front of them or swerving around, you know, sort of some of the things that might happen now at the end of Orange Street that's closer to downtown. Are there any other speed management tools that, besides ones that are already considered, that you might be considering?
I mean, we're always open to ideas. I think we have a fairly comprehensive list of them in here. You know, sort of the two macro ones from a design perspective are you narrow the roadway, and then you also put raised elements in the roadway. And both of those aspects are fairly prominent in the plan. You know, enforcement is always an important part of any speed management. Although I think it, you know, I don't think we see quite the excessive speeds that we see in other spots in the neighborhood of the city. You know, yeah, I think we're always interested in more ways to do that. You know, and so if there are any ideas that you know kind of make sense and that can point to being successful in other communities, we try to really learn from other places as well. And you know, I think a lot of it is also, you know, sort of traffic volume management and, you know, having people use the road for what it is, which is a neighborhood road, and de-emphasizing it as a cut through to, as alternatives to, you know, State or Whitney Avenue.
Another consistent question that came up was just about buses, how buses will operate. Will that change with the plan? Can you speak to that?
We're not planning any changes to buses. I think buses, interestingly, there are at least one very prominent example of a street in the city where buses are blamed for most of the speeding. So having, I think, a roadway where buses as well can operate at sort of intended speeds is important. I think, you know, in general, I don't think we're doing anything that really inhibit or hinder buses. You know, we've put speed humps on the bus routes before. One of them actually, the president said, everyone slowed down except for buses. You know, Shelton Avenue, Concord Street, a few others as well that we put, you know, State Street, we put, you know, raised elements on Valley Street. It hasn't been a hindrance for buses. I think, you know, it's continuing to work with our partners at CT Transit to remind them that New Haven streets are not, you know, some of the intercity, routes that they can drive on or the highway. It's a place where buses also share the roadway. And are a really important part of our transit system. And we've got 20,000 riders a day in the New Haven bus system, and doing bus rapid transit to increase that. It's an important part of that.
And one last question for the raised elements, specifically the speed bumps that are between Cold Spring, Canner, and Willow. Are those placed there specifically in the plan because those are the longest stretches where there is no?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was our initial thoughts on it. I think our thinking may vary as to where we put them along the stretch. But that's really the benefit of getting into design and, having kind of a funded project here that we dive into those very questions.
And so you could imagine perhaps if, in addition to those two being there, in the design process, they could be expanded. There could be more if as a speed management tool further down Orange.
I think we have a reputation for not shying away from raised elements in the roadway. I think that's a fair thing to say.
Thank you, Director Smith. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I just have one more.
Alder Hogan.
As you were describing the different types of vehicles and methods of travel on Orange Street, on my way down here, two scooters went by me extremely fast. Not anything that is noticeable in my neighborhood, as you've been to my neighborhood many times. But coming down Broadway, is there some traffic calming that may impact the scooter travel? I'm talking about the young men that amp up their scooters, and you probably ski.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there some way to slow them down on this project?
Generally speaking, once scooters start to get into like dirt bike territory, the capabilities of that, dirt bike is designed to go over very rough terrain. Not really. You start to probably very negatively affect the ability of the regular traveling public to do that. If we were to design a road that a dirt bike couldn't go down, then nothing else could probably go down as well. That being said, I don't know that how much of an impact one way or another speed bumps and that kind of thing do. Although I do think that it may discourage some of the tricks and stuff like that, possibly. But I really, that's more of a policing issue at the end.
Gotcha. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Hogan. While on that note, is there a speed limit for like e-bikes and these e-scooters that can reach 40 miles per hour?
They would have to follow the speed limit of whatever roadway they're on.
So if it's 20 miles per hour, they're
20
to
miles an
follow
hour,
20.
yeah.
If it's 25, it's.
I think technically bicycles would have to stay under 20 miles an hour, which is usually not a problem, but.
But now with the e-bikes that
You
can
can,
reach pretty high speeds as well as, e-scooters.
Yeah.
They can get up there.
Yeah, and there are different levels of e-bikes and things like that, but it's an emerging thing to look at. And I think again, it's partially up to the user to not do that. I mean, theoretically, if you're in a Corvette, you could probably break 100 on Orange Street. Doesn't mean they should do that.
Let's not do that.
No, you should.
But everyone, whatever you're riding, is to follow the speed limit.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any further questions from colleagues? You all set? Alder Smith? Do you want to just go through all your lists?
It's just one last question that came to mind. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Sen. So if we were to receive the funds, then you'd embark on a process of a more detailed design.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan on sort of rolling out that plan, or can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would end up being, fairly reminiscent to what you see conceptually, moving it with some tweaks. We do provide updates through our website, publish it, and provide updates through you, the alders. I think I particularly value working with the alders as a conduit for information out as well. The CNT. I think we have had a lot of public input on Orange Street, and, voluminous public input, and that's exciting, right? I mean, I think a lot of us, the reason why we're in government as opposed to, the private sector is because we get to be closer to how these things are discussed and made. So I think those would be the primary conduits to get information out, updates out, and then, as design progresses, it continues to be a discussion with you and all the elected officials in the neighborhood on how to continue to get information.
Thank you, Director Zinn. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Smith. What do you think is the time frame for this? I know we don't have the funding in hand and.
Yeah, I think, it depends on, exactly when the funding would, some of the commitments would come through. It'd probably take design through the end of the year, most likely. Then at some point in 2026, we wrap up and get it out there. So, I haven't fully resource planned all that out yet. We've got a fair number of construction projects, such as Whitney Avenue, for example, in between. We are, I was trying to think of, how much, we got a lot of construction going on. $40–50 million of contracts, I think, in active construction right now. So there's a lot going on, but it's good. But I think that's kind of the time. We're probably not construction in 2025.
Because we don't even have the funding secured.
Correct.
Okay. So until the funding is secured, we really, even though you've been diligent about coming up with a plan,
right,
it's not.
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. While you're there, do you want to?
Sure, go through the rest of the items. Which one is next? Let me ask you.
So item 4 is Church Street South Promenade.
Sure. So this is a project, the Church Street South Promenade. I think you see a concept sketch in your package. One of the key things that we've heard from people coming into New Haven and from our community, business, institutional community, and residents even, people coming to visit New Haven come to Union Station, and if they're not getting into the vehicle, it's kind of not clear where to go, right? And also it was part of one of the things that we saw in our master planning work with the Housing Authority in Glendower for the redevelopment of Union Square. So what this is proposing is a 20-foot wide off-street shared use path on Church Street South from Union Avenue to MLK. Well, not MLK, to South Frontage Road. And that would then connect to a kind of a central pathway through the Union Square triangle, right outside of Union Station. So imagine you're in Union Station, you walk out the door, there's this very clear sort of plaza and promenade that takes you up to Church Street South, and then this very nice wide tree-lined lit space that brings you up towards downtown. I think there was innovation clusters. I don't remember if we had all the renderings yet, but I know in our application we actually have a rendering. The economic development folks are better at renderings than I am, but that kind of shows what this would look like heading up towards downtown. But really, inspired by paths in major cities, whether it's Washington on the Mall, kind of these really wide, comfortable paths that aren't just a sidewalk or kind of an oversized path next to traffic, but kind of are big enough in a scale that are their own thing next to the road, but can stand on their own. And so this is a federal transportation alternatives program through the Connecticut Department of Transportation and the Southern Connecticut Regional Council of Governments. The cost right now is at $3.65 million. It's federal money, so it's 80-20 money. We have a 20% match to come up with. So the federal portion is $2.92 million. We would have to come up with $730,000 in some state money that we would be able to put towards that. Also depends exactly on when it goes into construction, which year we're in. But that is what is planned there. It ties into some of the things that we talked about last month about innovation clusters, and ties into also some of the improvements DOT is looking to do on Union Avenue and at the station as well, that are quite frankly, very exciting. So it's a nice connecting piece in all of this. It may look a little random kind of on its own, but in its context, where you have sort of innovation clusters and all that we're doing in downtown on one end, and Union Station improvements on the other end, it starts to make, and Union Square, very big part of it as well. It becomes a complete picture.
So, when you say federal funding, I get a little nervous because we know what we're facing these days. Is this funding coming through?
Yeah, and my understanding is that it's still there. Could it disappear? Sure. Yeah, it certainly could. I think it's, I don't think we want to live in fear of that. And that was kind of an internal discussion we had yesterday. What do we do? I don't think we want to live in fear of that. We got to keep pushing forward. And then as things happen and then we don't have money, and I think yesterday the mayor talked about, for example, a big stormwater project that, there's a declaration to eliminate this hugely wasteful program to eliminate flooding in critical areas, quote unquote. Obviously, I disagree very strongly with that assessment, but I think we have to go forward. A lot of the sort of the transportation formula funds, which this is part of the state's allotment, as opposed to discretionary funds, seem to be a little less of an issue. Also, it goes to all states, which also helps. So you have, all 535 members of Congress that, have these dollars being spent in and around their districts.
Is this city property or is it part of the Union Square?
It's the city right away.
Okay.
So this would be the part, we're basically narrowing, taking out the medians or modifying the medians on Church Street South. Church Street South is a very wide right of way, so there's a fairly large amount of space.
Okay, so it's not going to interfere with the Union Square?
No, it ties into it, yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, quite frankly, it sort of expands the human usable space in front of it on Church Street South.
Questions from colleagues? Alderman.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I walk out of Union Station, you will walk straight to Church Street South.
Mm-hmm.
This pathway will have housing or commercial on each side as it passes once that project starts to begin.
Once that project, they'll build the passage, sort of that through the Union Square. That's not part
So this is all part of the Union Square construction then?
Or
is this going to be happening before?
So this could happen before. The part on Church Street could happen before. We could do some sort of hold down condition on Union Square. We've started to just float the idea with the housing authority for that connection, but I think it really depends on where everyone is and give it a couple of years when this all comes to fruition.
This in no way will impact the transportation systems that are already there that get you from the green. So no longer is that free shuttle going to stop so you can walk.
It's not going to impact any of that. This is not, no.
I know we're trying to go healthy as well and say you can walk to the green.
I mean, I think using a bus is pretty healthy. That's a lot, more usually it's a bit more walking than being in your car. But yeah, I think there's a fair number of people that walk, and a lot of them go to State Street. They kind of wind up being in the median there on State Street. I always feel bad for the people I see with a suitcase walking through the medians of State Street, clearly kind of lost as to where to go. But I think this is really trying to create an entrance to the city and a clear path to get into the heart.
Got it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further questions? Okay.
All right.
Go right on.
All right, next up is.
And just so folks know, we will be taking public testimony. While I have the city engineer here, we'll just continue. Go ahead.
Next one is.
Is there any chance I could speak on Orange Street before I have to go home?
Oh, people will have the opportunity,
Okay.
yes, to speak. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Next one is Mill Trail. That's the next item. Okay.
Yes.
So the next item is also from the Transportation Alternatives Program. It is a $4.5 million project for Mill River Trail. to continue the work we're doing on Mill River Trail. We have one segment that we're trying to build any day now. It's its final approval step at Federal Highway Administration between the ice rink and district. This would bring the northern section of the trail from Orange Street, right behind Wilbur Cross, down to the ice rink on Blake Field. So it would pass behind the Wilbur Cross High School, behind the athletic fields there, in a new short tunnel under Willow Street, and then through the edge of Blake Field to connect into the segment we're hoping to construct here very, very shortly. Also, the second segment of this is connecting the district segment that goes by district. It comes up to Humphrey Street, so along Humphrey Street, and then along a rail right-of-way that we're trying to acquire from a local property owner behind 370 James to connect to a section that's already been constructed some years ago by our city plan department. I think I was actually walking the proposed route yesterday behind Wilbur Cross. It has the opportunity to be particularly scenic and interesting, and not only serve as an important part of our active transportation network in the city for people riding around the city, but also a destination unto itself, a place for people for recreation, for health reasons, for exercise. So we're very excited about that. It is the 80-20 match as well. So 3.6 million federal funds, $900,000 in local. In this case, they will use some more state funding as well for that. And we're out there doing surveying right now. And if you go back there, you see a lot of wetland flags and flagging all the wetlands. So we're starting to work on the design as well now. And look forward to this. It's a fairly significant project. I'm really excited about it. And it's all of this is part of the 2004 Greenway plan. Front Canal Line is about to open, I hope. That's the first one that's complete, but we've got 3 other greenways to build. This one, Mill River Trail Shoreline, and the West River. So we're trying to really push on that in the next 5 years.
Great, this has been a long time coming. It's also safer for our students to, especially from Fairhaven, who go to Wilbur Cross, to cross safely, because that's a crazy area. What is the time frame that we're looking at for this?
So I think, again, we've got probably about a year's design into it. And there's some permissions and some property right acquisitions, the railroad right away that I already talked about. Kankakee Department of Transportation owns a bunch of land behind Wilbur Cross along the river. So I think we will need some land things with them, whether they're easements or they want to turn some of it over to us or what. But that'll all be part of this.
Okay, and again, this item is for us to accept the funding.
Correct, yeah.
Questions from colleagues? Alder Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, directors, and this is really exciting. How do you imagine what the sort of, I guess, ground of the trail will it be similar to East Rock Park, those trails?
We're actually looking to pave it with us.
Oh, pave, okay.
Because we think that our greenway system, like the Farmington Canal Line, is most successful as a more almost year-round commuter trail as well, when it has a harder surface to it. Also cuts down significantly on some of the maintenance.
Makes sense. And when you think about the tunnel under Willow, what's your sense of best practices for trails like this, that when there's a tunnel, keeping it safe, just making sure that people feel comfortable passing through? Do you have any?
I think keeping it as short as possible is one thing. It's obviously a lot safer to go under a roadway than cross a roadway like Willow Street that has thousands of cars per day, and people coming off the highway right there. It also keeps the alignment of the trail a lot straighter than it would be otherwise. If you kind of go out your way across the street, not people like start trying to climb the side of the embankment there and then cross. Lighting, cameras, that kind of infrastructure as well. But I think daylighting both ends of it, and just making sure through design you keep it as light and open as possible, and also don't simply put it in a tunnel with nothing that's connecting to it. The more people that use the tunnel, the less likely you'll see negative uses of the site.
Related to that question, how do you imagine this, whether in timeline or in activation, this trail has a relationship with the investment in Blake Field, especially that softball field, or maybe former softball fields? Because I can imagine if
Oh, we just
that
rebuilt
corner,
the
right?
infield. I hope it's still a
Yeah,
softball field.
yeah. If that corner is more activated, more utilized, perhaps that could contribute to more safety.
Yeah, I think having, we just rebuilt the softball infield, I think finished yesterday. Generally speaking, I think when some of the construction goes out, the construction yard there, we'll see more soccer as well. The ice rink itself has gotten a lot of usage. Every time I go by there, I see a lot of people there. And this is part of tying together what we're calling the East Rock Sports Complex with Blake, sort of the cross fields, and then Rice Field as well. One of the things we are going to do is make sure this trail goes around the perimeter so it doesn't cut through the middle of it or anything like that. I think you might have had a very early draft where I think we just kind of ran out of time and sent it. That doesn't go around the perimeter, but that would be where we would go behind the little league field.
No, that's great. And there's a vibrant kickball community that uses that field. One last question, sort of along the line of activation. There was the proposal to have potentially a kayak launch coming out off of District for the Mill River, for access to the Mill River. What are your thoughts or reflections on an investment or a project like that? And
I mean, I think kayak launches are great in general. I don't know enough about the specifics of District. I think the District had looked at it, and there were some issues with the grade right in that location, and possibly some of the soils and contaminants there. Happy to revisit that conversation. I think finding somewhere for a kayak launch along the Mill River Trail, improving the ability, if someone wants to portage around the tide gate, for example, all those things are things that are, I think very worthwhile, and figuring that out. I honestly been sort of focused on getting this trail done, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to go out and think about but we can certainly meet out in the field.
Yeah. Thanks for you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Smith.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay,
All right, well, I don't have any questions, otherwise we have one last item.
we have one last item, and then we'll open it up to the public, and this is for Townsend Avenue.
So this is a very short one. We constructed the first raised crossing on State Roadway I think 2 years ago. We did that without having to have an executed maintenance agreement with the state, which we knew was coming, but they gave us a draft of it and basically said that we had to plow the 24 feet of the raised crossing. I told them we were not interested in doing that. They could just drive the plow truck that's plowing the rest of the road over the raised crossing, and quite frankly, they would probably be doing that anyway. So finally, earlier this year, they gave us an updated one that took out that requirement, and so because it's a maintenance agreement, it does come before you. It's here now, and we basically have to take care of anything that isn't standard roadway there. So the raised asphalt, the RFBs, the sidewalk, which we have to take care of anyway on state roads often, some of the special markings related to the raised crossing.
Okay, so they'll be responsible for the plowing, but we're still
Correct.
responsible for if any damages were to
Yeah.
occur. They're off. They don't have that liability, we do.
We would have to repair that.
Okay. Questions from colleagues? No?
I'm sorry.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you all very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, at this time, we will open it up to the public. We have Till. So if anyone is interested in speaking on any of the items that we have discussed this evening, you'll have an opportunity to do so. There was a sign-up sheet, but that's okay. You don't need to sign up. You can come forward. And just as a reminder, I will ask that anyone who testifies to state
your name and address for the record and go right into your testimony. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, my name is Till. I live at 53 Lawrence, apartment 1. Well, yeah, I'm here to talk about I guess I use Orange Street like every day to commute. And I also bike. And I saw the new like plans, like the preliminary plans, but I'm just here to say that like it doesn't absolutely nothing for bikers, cyclists. I mean before I like completely talk about how I disagree with it, I do want to like say I think the color is great. I think that creates a good like psychological difference for any car. I lived in the Netherlands for 6 years, so I know what like good bike infrastructure and like traffic calming looks like, and they do that very well, and it definitely works. So stupid think the color is great. All for like the like overarching goal of traffic calming. I think that's commendable, and I completely agree. It should be like yeah, and it should be a throughway for cars. And I also think like the race elements are great. I would like to specifically see if we're gonna do like speed humps, can we put them by the sidewalk or by the crosswalk? Because raised crosswalks are just so much nicer for pedestrians. So if we're gonna do that anyway, could we maybe do that at the crosswalk, because that's where people and it really helps for like slowing people down, and that's what I personally have in places where raised crosswalks. It's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I do think like yeah, your question, Caroline's question, wasn't fully like answered about if I'm biking down there, we have slow traffic, and there's a bus behind me. You know, great that we have narrow roads where people are slower, but if there's a bus behind me and I'm biking, I'm gonna feel uncomfortable because I'm never, you know, I'm not gonna go 20 miles an hour with my bike. And if it's narrow, it's not they're not gonna pass me on like the median thingy. I think that's ridiculous. And yeah, I don't know. I just like we need to do better. We need to do better and have some kind of solution for bikers. Like this does absolutely nothing for bikers. If you want to go anyway from like north of East Rock to downtown, you're going to use Orange Street. You're not going to use Whitney. You're not going to use State. And so we need something for bikers. Like you just got to give us something. If it's like a painted on bike lane, if it's something. And I mean, now we have a median, so we're taking away space from cars, but maybe we can somehow find a solution that we can kind of incorporate some kind of anything for bikers. Because yeah, it's scary biking down Orange. And I get that, you know, it's supposed to make it slower for everyone, including cars, and might have to take some cars, you know, divert some traffic to the other streets. But either way, there's going to be a car stuck behind me, and there's nothing worse than biking and me constantly looking over my shoulder, being scared that I don't know, I'm getting like harassed by a car, and that's what's going to happen in this case. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Basically, we as a city can do so much better biking. Where like just a larger point, like we're like so many people walk or bike. We're such a like a small city that everyone could be biking. It could make paradise on earth. If we could and this, I know personally, I know so many people in East Rock that would love to bike, but said that they're too afraid to. And yeah, we can do better. Like it could be, you know, we could be an example for the rest of the country. And you guys could put your posters everywhere.
Guilt darts.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I don't know I know there's been a lot of discussion on Orange Street, and I'm kind of like new to this discussion, but yeah, we can do better. We need something. Give us something.
Well, we thank you for your testimony, for being here tonight, for your patience, and, you know, the city engineer is here, so he's listening to all the testimony this evening, and, you know, questions were asked, and we'll see where this progresses.
Thanks.
So thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Oh, sorry, he was. Hi there.
Hi,
Welcome. Have a seat. State your name and address for the record.
my name is David Augusta. I live at 431 Orange Street. So I spent 3 days on Yukon's crash data repository. This section of Orange Street that you're considering is a little over 1 kilometer long. It's one of the safest kilometers of roadway in the city, and it's in one of the whitest neighborhoods in the city. And that combination is a problem. The section of Orange Street that I was on, there have been no serious injuries, no fatalities on that section of Orange Street. The section south of it, there have been 15 serious injuries and fatalities. Most of them have occurred at the Trumbull Street exit, which is a block away from two public schools. In our more Black and Hispanic neighborhoods, there have been fatalities and serious injuries directly in front of public schools. It's not even the most dangerous section of roadway in your wards. There have been about 20% more crashes on Willow Street, 3 of which cause serious injuries. They both provide access to Willow Cross High School, but Willow Street has a second school directly across the street, and is the access route to a major highway, interstate limited access highway where driver behavior is at its worst. It also, this project conflicts with all of the initiatives and goals in the Vision 2034 plan. Vision Zero, which is the goal of eliminating traffic fatalities, you can't do that if you prioritize safer streets over more dangerous streets. The Reviving the Safe Routes to School plan, which this board approved many, many years ago, reviving that as part of this plan. And again, you have more serious accidents at public schools in minority white neighborhoods. So this is all a problem. I mean, it's great to make a street safer, but we have to set priorities that are logical. And there's no logic behind this. I mean, my section of Orange Street is infinitely more dangerous than this one. So it occurs to me naturally. I mean, I'm a first responder to most of the accidents on any intersection. Why are we prioritizing the safest section of that roadway? Why are we prioritizing the safest street in that neighborhood? It just makes absolutely no sense. On Grand Avenue, there were 90 crashes on that section of Orange Street. There have been 255 on the section of Whaley, 202 on the section of Sherman, 165, 134 on section on Grand Avenue and Lombard Street. Just much more dangerous roadways, and they're much less white neighborhoods. This isn't Alabama. This is New Haven. We should not be doing this.
So I'm just going to add, there's a whole redesign for Grand Avenue that we have funding for that's coming.
Okay.
There's, you know, also plans for Whaley Avenue, for safety on Whaley Avenue and other parts of the city. So there's just so much going on, and we'd like to see it done all overnight. And in regard to the other section of Orange Street with the Reconnecting Communities grant that we were just awarded of $2 million, we hope to have a plan as part of like a phase 2 Orange Street redesign for that section.
Okay.
But because it's tricky with the highway ramp there, the exit 3 ramp, yeah, we all know, yes, we love crossing that area. You know, we're hoping, you know, we're confident, I'll say we're confident that with the grant that we were recently awarded for Reconnecting Communities, we could come up with a plan for that section of Orange Street.
All right, but we're coming up with that plan after this. And that should not be the order of operations.
Yeah, and that's all because of this grant as well that we were just awarded. The other part of Orange Street has been kind of a few years in the making. And
Yeah.
we're finally.
I know.
Yes.
But again, it's a minority white neighborhood that's supporting 80% white neighborhoods. It's not my priority. Sherman Avenue should be a priority. And, you know, we really need to pay attention. The recognition of the existence of underserved neighborhoods and a plan to solve that problem was in the Safe Routes for All plan and then ignored. It's again in the Vision for 2034 plan. And it's not being ignored, but it's not being prioritized. And those neighborhoods will continue to be underserved until we stop underserving them. So that was my concern about this project. You know, I'm going to continue my opposition to it on those grounds at the state level and seeing what I can do.
Right, well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your concerns too.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for coming out tonight and for your patience.
Thank you. Oh, I also want to get to this, the discrimination in this is not intentional. I do not believe that, and I just, that is not.
And we do not take it
That
that
is
way.
not.
No, we appreciate your
We
concerns.
know that it's accidental, it's disparate impact. It's like ability discrimination is always unintentional, which makes it harder to fight. Bias is really easy to fight.
We appreciate that.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
work on it in the 2034 plan. It's really acceptable.
Yes, there's a lot of good things happening in New
There are a
Haven.
lot of good things happening. This is not one of them.
Well, again, thank you for coming out this
Thank you,
evening.
sir.
You seem to be in a rush, so. No rush. Okay. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record and then go right into your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Mary Beasley. I am a homeowner at 869 Orange Street. And I am just here to express my support for this redesign plan. We spent a lot of time in my community opposing the initial plans to eliminate parking on one side of the street on Orange Street. It's, I've lived here in East Rock since 2006. I've seen businesses move out of my community. We lost a post office, we lost a hardware store. We need businesses in order to thrive as a community. We can't just be a series of residences without services. There is such a level of, vibrancy that exists in East Rock. And I think this plan hopes to not only maintain it, but to even make it greater. And so I think that's its promise. And I think it's unique. I think it's creative. I think people feel that because of their constituencies, they have to have it their way. I don't know what the best solution is, but of all the solutions I've seen presented, this one just, it feels promising. And I think it does seem like a compromise to some constituencies, but we all have to compromise. We all have to live together. And if there's any message that we need to put across at this time, it's that we all have to live together. We all have to engage and give and take. And that seems to be getting less and less attention. And I think it's really a message we need to reinforce. And so I thank you for this redesign and for taking everybody's, concerns into consideration. And I really look forward to seeing what happens. I think it's going to be very cool.
Well, we appreciate your excitement, that's for sure. And thank you for coming out this evening. This has been a few years in the making, with some challenges, and hopefully, we will see what the redesign will actually look like, since we do have a little bit of time.
Right.
But we appreciate you coming out and, voicing your support as well as your patience for this evening.
You're welcome.
So
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
for
Thank you
listening
very
to me.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
JR. I'm gonna say it's,
I wonder what he wants to talk about.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
no
don't
clue.
know. He doesn't give it away at all. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Richard Logan, and I live at 69 East Pearl here in New Haven. And it's pretty simple. I'm here in support of the Mill River Trail and the work that is being done. So I just want to emphasize that the trail is access for pedestrians and potentially all sorts of non-car commuters, and that it's access to nature, and also to reinforce the comments that were made about the importance of its proximity to water and access to that water, so that people can enjoy recreation and transportation by foot and by paddle. And I think that will make New Haven more attractive, and the people who are here to appreciate it more. So it's as simple as that. Thank you for everyone who's been working on it, and I am enthusiastically looking forward to shovels in the ground and things moving forward. Thank you.
And you know what? Thank you as well, because you've worked really hard on this entire project from its conception from a few years ago. And it's nice to see the fruits of your labor hopefully coming to fruition. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Yes, lots of people have seen the vision and been supportive, and I'm happy to have been one of them carrying the banner.
Yes.
So thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on any of the items that were presented this evening? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on these items? Please come forward. And for a third time, if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak on any of these items, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, Mr. Vice Chair.
Make a motion to close the public portion. Second.
A motion has been moved and seconded to close the public portion. All in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Public portion has been closed. And actually, you know what, I meant to say that we did get, I know that Misty was kind to print out some of the testimony that was sent via email. Not all of what we received made it to our packets, but it was a pretty balance of for and against regarding the Orange Street bump out redesign. I'm sure Misty will forward us the rest of the testimony, and if any other has come in the meantime. But just looking at some that I was copied on, it looks like it's 50-50 for support of the redesign and against the redesign. So with that being said, I also want to note that we did get a letter of support for the designation of a residential parking zone for Burr Street. So there was a letter for that as well. And I think that was it. I just didn't want to forget that, to mention that. Okay, with that, do I hear a motion to move item number 1?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second. Item 1 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on item 1, which is regarding the First Street residential parking zone?
Madam Chair, I would like to make an amendment to this item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Chair, I move to amend this item by substitution with the revised version of the order before the committee tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any discussion on this? I think we do have it in our packets, the revision of what Alder Singh's amendment presented. It's on page 15. It's just a revision, just tweaking some language regarding the Burr Street residential parking zone. Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded for the amendment. All in agreement of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we will now return back to the item as amended. Any discussion on the item as amended? Alder Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've heard testimony regarding the situation in the parking and for residents in this area. And we do have residential zone in part of our city, and it's appropriate to accommodate these residents for this parking, considering the vicinity of the airport and regarding their testimony. So I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Singh. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll say ditto to what my colleague Alder Singh has just said. It was interesting to learn how these poor residents actually get their doorbells rung for people for permission to park there, as well as for they to watch their cars. So anyway, I'm going to support this residential parking zone. We've done other streets in the area as well, and this should be part of that plan. So if there's no further discussion,
Question.
Alder Singh.
Has other parts of Burr Street been approved, or will that be following? Because what's gonna happen is that one little block, which as you come down Fort Hill, crossing the parking lot, yeah, will they?
That will be up to the residents.
I understand, but I mean, you said there were other areas that were, I just don't know that.
Yeah, about a year or two ago, they've been coming in kind of staggered.
So, okay. Not an overall kind of.
Yeah, it hasn't been an overall, it's been section by section, depending on the residents and what they're facing as the airport has grown.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of the motion.
Thank you.
The amendment.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor of item number 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, move item number 2 regarding the corner name.
Second.
Item 2 has been moved and seconded. Discussion on item number 2. This is regarding the corner naming for Frank and Philomena Puppies. Alder Singh.
Madam Chair, I'm in fully support of this historic corner name for Frank and Philomena. As they came here, I can't recall how many years, but they're here with a dream come true and put us on the map, New Haven, with their pizza. And it's a very popular pizza, and it'll be so appropriate and appreciated to honor that by naming the corner.
Thank you, Alder Singh. Any further discussion? Okay. When they came, well, let's see. Frank Pepe was the founder and owner of Frank Pepe's Pizzeria, located on Worcester Street, as we know, and it opened on June 16th, 1925. Frank Pepe was from a town called Maiori, Italy, which is on the Amalfi Coast. He immigrated to New Haven, and for 100 years has been serving some great New Haven style avis, Neapolitan, thin crust, and he started selling it from a cart, as we mentioned earlier, and then he opened up his brick and mortar pizzeria. He was an Italian immigrant who came to this country with a suitcase full of dreams, as many immigrants do so as of today. He was a devoted family man, a business owner, an active member of his community, and I think it's fitting that the corner be named in his honor, as well as, his wife, who probably really ran the show. So to Frank and Philomena, you laugh, it's true, that's why you're laughing. Yeah, and I too am in favor of this corner naming. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this corner naming, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, abstentions? The ayes have it. Do you want to move item 3?
Madam Chair, I move item number 3.
Second.
Item 3 has been moved and seconded. Discussion on item number 3. Any discussion? Alder Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in support of this item, and it's 2 points to bring up. One is what makes me supportive of it and my concern. So what makes me supportive of it is I think about how many residents I've talked to who drive down Lawrence Street, the equivalent driving down Canner, the equivalent driving down Bishop Street. I think about myself, I think about my partner who drives down Lawrence Street every single day to get to the hospital, and that moment of a leap of faith where you just hope a car's not coming and you take that left-hand turn. And so I'm in support of this funding because it invests in those pedestrian bump outs such that someone doesn't feel like they are just taking their life into their own hands by taking that left on each of those intersections. So I think that's really important, as well as those reddened and colored path to be able to slow people down. My main concern, and just what I would continue to encourage directors in and the team that is engaged on this, if we receive the funding, is just the concerns around the through traffic and the speed management. And whether it's speed bumps, signage, anything additional that can support cyclists, whether it's thinking about any kinds of one lane bike lane that doesn't get rid of parking on one side, and a bike lane on State Street, such that there's 2 pathways going towards downtown and then going towards East Rock. Just would encourage these different kinds of ideas such that that moment of being a cyclist biking down Orange Street and that pressure that Till articulated is mitigated. And maybe that's something that evolves over the course of time, but that just continues to be my concern. I'm still in favor of it because of those significant pedestrian improvements and how that could prevent potentially a pretty significant crashes that do happen at each of those intersections. But I would just continue to encourage us in partnership with the city to think about how to mitigate that concern and assuage a lot of the cyclists' concerns. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Smith. Alder Hogan.
This afternoon, while in the middle of a crosswalk with my dog, a car sped by me and then flipped me the bird for being in the crosswalk. Anytime there's an opportunity for pedestrians to be safe, and I too in Ward 28 have a very walkable neighborhood, not quite Fifth Avenue, but a walkable neighborhood where day and night you will see someone at all hours walking the neighborhood. Feel that when there's an opportunity to make the pedestrian safer, the bicyclist safer, the scooter riders safer, I think it's a great opportunity to behold. I did miss one question I would have liked to have asked the director, but we can follow up in design, is that on Edgewood Avenue, they have biker signals for traffic signals. And I don't know if that was going to actually be put in place there, but I'm in support of this by the design of having a residential area that wants to be safe, wants to be able to walk. And had any of you attended the pedestrian death memorial in Beaver Pond Park last year, with all the little flags of the number of citizens in Connecticut that have been hit by cars. It was extremely moving, but we'd like to be able to cut that number down. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Hogan. Any further discussion? I too am in favor of this item. First of all, we're hopefully going to get the $1.6 million to redesign Orange Street to make it a pedestrian friendly, and I think even cyclist friendly. Drivers are going to be forced to slow down, whether it's to 20 miles per hour or less, particularly because of the raised elements, the bump outs, the colors of the road, et cetera. I look at the redesign as somewhat almost no different than what it is now, because I find that if you are riding your bike, cars are still going around you, even in the bike lane. You know, yes, there's public transportation between the Yale Shuttle as well as Connecticut Transit that goes down Orange Street, and sometimes they're the culprits of speed. But in general, being someone who walks Orange Street, I'm not a cyclist, just never was.
It's never too late.
No, it's too late. But I do walk down Orange Street, I do drive it as well, and I find that people don't drive fast down Orange Street. You always have that one or two that is gonna be, I don't know, what do you wanna call them, show off, derelict, whatever, that is gonna speed. But sometimes I actually fear the e-scooters and e-bikes more so because they're going so fast that it actually, a cyclist probably not, that doesn't have an e-bike. If they're going 20 miles per hour, God bless you. Or maybe it is possible, I don't know. But anyway, there's fears all around. I think this redesign is something that is interesting. We don't have anything like this in the city. And it sounds like that if we design it, build it, try it out, there's always room for improvement. And unless we try it, we won't know. And I appreciate also Mr. Avesta, testimony regarding other sections of New Haven. But we all know what's going on, and there's a lot going on throughout the entire city. But with Orange Street, this has been something in the works for a long time. I've been a part of it since its inception, 3 years ago, 4 years. I can't remember if it was even pre-COVID. It may have been pre-COVID. It's been that long. We've had many community meetings. We've had residents drop off petitions at my house on both sides, the cyclists as well as the residents that are concerned about losing parking. We've met with the business owners and heard their concerns. We've met pretty much with every group possible through those years. And everyone who we've met with, including the businesses, I shouldn't say everyone. The businesses like the redesign, the residents who are concerned about losing parking like this redesign. We even have some cyclists that like this redesign, but we also have those that don't. And we, as a board, I think, try to listen to everyone. And I think the toughest part of being an alder is that we can't please everybody. And that's just, I think, life in general. I'm babbling now, but these concerns are real. We're trying to make New Haven a green city by eliminating, as much of the carbon as possible. And we are the City Services and Environmental Policy Committee, which we have those concerns as well. And I think New Haven is actually doing a really good job of that on many levels. There's still work to be done, but I think as a city, we've made a lot of investments towards being greener. And this might actually help us become more greener as well. It might encourage more people to ride their bikes, as Alder Hogan has said, it's never too late. Well, my husband says my bike has very low kilometers on it. But there's always that, right? But anyway, I'll stop babbling. I am supporting this item mainly, we could use the funding to help develop this street, and I look forward to actually seeing a final design. And we did get some input, so the conversation continues, but for us to give up any money would be to our fault. So with that, I'll stop. Any further discussion? All in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I go back to number 4.
But here a second. Second. Item 4 has been moved and seconded. This is the Church Street South Promenade project. Any discussion? Alderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a strategic area from Union Station. Union Station is there, it's not going anywhere. And it's a great vision to build from there. It's our gateway from Union Station to downtown. So I commend the mayor and the city engineer for their vision for this project. And with the redevelopment of that plot of land coming there, I think this is a great opportunity to make improvement.
Thank you, Alderson. Any further discussion? Okay, great. All in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I move item number 5 on our agenda.
Second.
Item 5 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this grant for the Mill River North project? Alderson.
Madam Chair, as we hear from the public testimony, this is a well-deserved project to the Mill River, and I think it will be well received from our constituents and our residents, so I'm in favor of this.
Thank you, Alderson. Alderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you had mentioned, just a big thank you to J.R. Logan, Ben Berkowitz, and some of the advocates who really made this real. They just made it real. And I hope they feel really proud today. And thank you, Directors and others, for taking it to the next level. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderson. I too am in favor of this item. This has been years in the making, and we're taking some prime property and making it enjoyable for everyone in the city to enjoy. It's making a trail that's going to be safer for our students to get to school versus having to cross, the on and off ramp of Willow Street for the highway. It'll be nice to walk those trails to go to a football game or a soccer game or a lacrosse game over at Wilbur Cross, and maybe cross over, go to Blake Field and enjoy the rink and a softball game. I mean, this is what community is about. These are the pathways that bridge. It's the bridge actually that connects our communities, and this is a great way to get, Fairhaven connected with East Rock and get rid of that, not get rid of the highway, but it's there, but be able to get across without, any obstacles in the way. So I encourage my colleagues to support this item. It is a long time coming. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I move item number 6 on our agenda.
I hear a second.
Second.
Item 6 has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the Townsend Avenue raised crosswalk maintenance agreement? Alderson.
Madam Chair, in this item, city engineer testified regarding the logistic of this item, and it is appropriate to have responsibility and maybe amendment in this maintenance agreement.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. And before I hear a motion to adjourn, we heard a lot of items tonight, a lot of positive things and a lot of things that are happening in New Haven. So thank you to our city engineer, Giovanni Zinn, obviously to the administration, and also for our federal and state partners that are giving us a lot of money to be able to move forward with these projects. And we look forward to seeing them in the near future. And my vice chair is saying CSA office as well. We have our deputy director, Bombero, here. So, this takes teamwork, and it's nice to see when we have everyone come together for such good things happening in the city. So with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Adjournment has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on adjournment?
Seeing none, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
One day, one stay wrong.
You can't. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Misty, should we take the mic off? Thanks for Madam Chair.
Vice Chair.
Sorry, sorry, Alvin.
I did because this could have gone different ways.
Thank you for the grub.
Huh?
Thank you for the grub.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, we weren't sure how it was going to